If you're just joining me, thank you for coming. And if you're returning, welcome back. So, the last few days have been crazy. I had an incident in my kitchen where my oven just decided it wanted to combust. And um, I heard a real loud pop, and then there was fire inside of my oven. And I kind of freaked out for a moment. And um, all is well now. But in that moment, it was it was like time stopped and I saw all of the possibilities of how things could have ended up. And when you have children in the home, thinking of something blowing up is a very impacting thought, right? I am so grateful for the fact that I was smart enough not to open the oven until the fire had went out, um, because I had food in the oven. So I don't know how or why. I just know that the coil just yeah, yeah. Um, but I bring up that because sometimes things happen in our life and we panic, right? And we just like all the thoughts that can go through our head of how this situation could play itself out is there. And in that moment, it took me a few seconds to gather myself. Don't get me wrong, I'm a lot better than I was when it comes to reacting. But when I feel like my children and I are in danger, I automatically go into this protector mode. And so that night, it really just stood out to me that while I did panic in the moment, it came back together like that because I have been working on myself and my awareness, and I knew not to react in a negative manner, meaning I could have started screaming and crying and having a fit, but like I kept it together. I waited until the fire went out, and then I leaned over the stove to turn it off because what I didn't want to happen was for if it needed to for it to open the oven, and I didn't know what was going on, so I waited it out. The fire eventually went out, and then I was able to turn my oven off. But imagine what would have happened if I had done something differently, right? So, all that to say, how aware we are of our everyday thoughts is very crucial to your evolvement. Yeah, is that the right word? Yeah. Like, because in order for you to evolve and become a better version of yourself, right, you have to be aware of who you are in this present time and moment. Meaning, what do you think about on a daily basis? What are you but it's not just the big thoughts, it's the little thoughts too. So, what are those little thoughts that are going through your head? Because at the end of the day, all thoughts are fleeting, but if you are not aware of what you're thinking, then how can you try in any manner to control it, right? Um So, like, for example, what are you watching? If you're watching something that's negative and violent and, just emotionally pulling at you, if it's something that is not necessarily uh, high vibrational, right? You will definitely send out that vibration. And so it's that saying, what you put in is what you put out, and what you put out is what you receive. So what are you putting into yourself? What are you watching? What type of music are you listening to? Is it degrading? Is it vulgar? Is it disrespectful? Like, if you are not watching what you're listening to, what you're watching, your actions, your everyday actions, your everyday thoughts, then you are not as aware as you may think that you are. I About 2 years ago, I stopped listening to music, um, because I became very aware of the lyrics in the songs. I'm the type of person, like, I love music, I love the beat, right? So it didn't matter for me at a certain point. Like, there was a time where it didn't matter for me what the words were, I was listening to the beat. And once I started actually listening to the words of the music, I was like, what do y'all got me listening to? It was either it was degrading, vulgar, um, downright disrespectful, and or I couldn't understand what they were saying. And then I was like, okay, well, that's a problem in itself because I don't know what they're saying, right? And so I just stopped listening to music. I would get in the car and I would turn the radio off. My kids hated it. But I needed to decompress and I needed to disconnect from that type of behavior, right? Um, Even now, if I'm in the car with someone else and a song comes on and the lyrics are not high vibrational at all, I will put my headphones in or I will tune it out. Now, the problem with that is, even though you try to tune stuff out, it's still in your subconscious. But I also know that I have no control over someone else's radio. I can only control myself. And so, understanding that in itself, then you don't allow certain things to get to you because you can't do anything about them, right? What can you control in your life that will change the awareness that you have? Um, what type of music are you listening to? Like I said, what type of shows are you watching? What type of books are you reading, if you read, or listening to? Is it things that are drama filled, is it um things that are calming, things that are informative, not just entertainment, right? Because at a point we have to realize that what we put into our vessel, what we consume mentally, physically, emotionally, right, is what we become, because it's the frequency that we then turn around and put out into the world. And so if you understand that you're soaking up all of this negative energy and you're soaking up all of these bad vibes, and you automatically become accustomed to that type of vibration, that type of feeling. And so it definitely does something to you when you're aware and you are disconnecting yourself from that type of entertainment or behavior. You watching who you're around, right? You're watching the things that you're saying. You're watching the things that you're thinking. All of those things matter, because on on the very, very bottom level, you have to say that, like, imagine your brain as the seed. And in order to get this plant to make the seed grow, right, you have to water it. And you have to make sure that you don't overwater it so that it doesn't drown. You have to make sure that the soil is just dry enough, and in order to make that seedling hatch, right, you have to be giving it the right nutrients, the right things. And then once it does, you have to keep up that behavior, otherwise it'll die. And so if you imagine your brain as that seedling, what are you feeding it? What type of conditions is it in? Right? Um, is it receiving all that it needs to be healthy? And if you notice that what you're listening to is not high vibrational, if what you're consuming is not high vibrational, if what you're like, there's literally scientific proof that you can talk to water, and our bodies are mostly water, right? We are like it's in us. And so if we're not consuming the right things, then we're adapting to these chaotic environments or chaotic shows or chaotic music, you're gonna you put out what you receive. So the energy that you're putting out is chaotic because the energy that you're receiving is chaotic. And so in order to change that, change what you're consuming. Sometimes we have to understand that the environments that we're in can be what we make it. And so if we indulge in the drama and the chaos, we can't be surprised when we get drama and chaos in our own lives. There's duality in everything. There's good and there's bad, or what I like to call high vibrational and low vibrational. As above, so below. But as Bruce Lee said, you have to be water. You have to flow. Because once you stop the flow, things get chaotic, right? You have all this buildup. And then so it's either gonna go around, it's gonna go over, it's gonna go under. And if it can't do any of those things, it's gonna bust through, right? And so if you are allowing that energy, that buildup, whether it's good or bad, and you don't let it out, if you don't release it, then it's going to blow up, right? And so when the oven blew up, it was like, okay, so what can I learn from this? Okay, so now I know I need to double check this and double check that. Now I know that I can no longer use my oven until maintenance comes. I have to cook on top of the stove. I'm a big baker because I I don't always have the time to stand over the stove and cook. And so not being able to bake, I was like, oh, okay, so now what am I gonna do? Now I have to figure out another way to get dinner made. And so taking that one step further, my son, I told you guys I'm a single mom. My son got into an altercation um, yesterday on the bus. And so maintenance came yesterday. As soon as maintenance came and I let maintenance in, we didn't talk for 60 seconds before my doctor's office called. Get off the phone with my doctor's office. Somebody else calls. Get off the phone with them. And I'm like, okay, I'm starting to get like a little headache. Let me go and eat something. A minute that I took the food out of the refrigerator, my son is running through the door, screaming my name. I dropped my food, of course, and was like, what's going on? He told me there was an altercation on his bus. And so I had to run outside and talk to a parent and figure out what was going on. And so I could have allowed all of that to overwhelm me and to put me in an ugly mood, but I didn't. I was just like, all right, well, we will talk to the school, we'll handle this, we'll figure it out. Um, and then I came upstairs and finished the rest of my day out. Now, the old me would probably not have taken that. The old me probably would have been frustrated, irritated, agitated, all the things, right? And probably would have been in a funky mood for the rest of the day. Because sometimes that's what happens when you are consuming so much chaos, right? You become the chaos. And knowing that I could have handled things or that I back in the day would have handled things totally different than what I did yesterday and the day before. I was very proud of myself. When we, and I had to acknowledge that, right? When we are putting and implementing these changes and we don't acknowledge, we don't pat ourselves on the back, we don't acknowledge that we've made improvement, then there's no reward system. And it's not, oh, I have to give myself something. I have to earn it. It's, well, I earned it without even trying because I was able to control myself. I was able to control myself, not try to control my environment. And I didn't get frustrated when things weren't going my way or things happened back to back, which is what I used to do. Knowing all of the things that I know now that I didn't know back then, I understand when people say you have to understand to understand. You have to understand yourself, right? Who you are, what you want out of this life, what you're putting into your mind, your body, and your soul, right? In order to understand that this world is not going to conform to you. And you should just be like water and just flow. And no matter what happens, just flow. Don't ever allow yourself to take on the things of the world and of the environment or of the show, because some of these shows that we watch, they give off a certain frequency. Like I had to stop watching one of my favorite shows because there I noticed that when I started to watch it, I would feel differently than before I was watching the show. Like I could literally, when you get to a point where you can tell what's interfering with your frequency, that's how you know that something is that your small adjustments have become this big adjustment to where now you can tell what's intercepting. Um and so all that to say that I understand that things happen both on the higher spectrum and the lower spectrum. My apologies, that was my son's school, and so of course I had to take it. Um, I think that I was talking about low vibrational and high vibrational. If it doesn't nurture, if it doesn't make me feel good in my body, then I just don't indulge, right? Low, as far as low vibrational, like for example, the phone call that I just got, I was in a good mood. Let me rephrase. I'm in a good mood. And, if I had allowed that phone call to bother me, then it would have altered my frequency, which would have altered how I was feeling. But now, am I gonna say 1,000% that what was said didn't bother me? I can't lie like that, because of course we have emotions, right? And it's okay to have those emotions, but how you deal with those emotions is the subject, right? So yes, it irritated me so bad that my eye is twitching, right? But I also know that that's not going to get me anywhere. I know that feeling those emotions, acknowledging those emotions, letting those emotions process, and then moving on to the next thing is what's going to benefit me best, because I don't do well when I sit and I marinate in a lower vibrational energy. And so I would encourage you to, again, do another audit. What are you paying attention to? What are you feeding your brain? What are you listening to? What are you watching? And is it something that is, uh, does it make you feel good? Is it feeding your soul in a good way? Right? as far as what you eating. Is it a whole bunch of junk? Are you indulging in a whole bunch of processed foods? Like, take an audit of what you're doing, what you're consuming, what you're thinking about on an everyday basis. And so it's good to get a journal and even just write down like what your thoughts were for the day. And so that way like, okay, this is where my mind is going when something happens, or even if nothing is happening, like what did I think about? Did I catch myself when I had a not so good thought? You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, doing this self work is what's going to help us become and evolve as a person, as a human being, and do what it is that we're here to do and here to be. So, um, yeah, I hope that this helps somebody, and I hope that we can, as a collective, make sure that we are feeding ourselves the right type of nourishment so that we can put it back out there, right? Because the world needs so much love right now that the only way that we're going to be able to honestly do that is if we love ourselves enough to tell ourselves the truth. And that doesn't mean be harsh or brutal. It just means be honest. Honesty is not always accepted because it is emotional. You feel a certain way when you hear honesty that you don't like, right? But if I am not going to lie to myself, I'm not going to lie to nobody else. And if you're lying to yourself, then you're lying to everybody else, right? In that sense, that what we put out is what we receive, right? So just keep all of those things in mind, and just do your audits. I don't know if you've heard of Askformations, but I love Affirmations, but I love Askformations as well, and there is scientific reasoning behind that, and you can look that up as well. And I will see you all next time. Bye.